will be a very sad Mother's Day for a family in Hampton.
They're remembering a young woman as an amazing sister and an even more amazing mother. Dozens of friends and family members gathered tonight at Darling Stadium to remember Tiara Jefferson. The 20-year-old pregnant woman was shot and killed while driving her car in Newport News yesterday. They released white balloons and took turns telling stories about the slain mother.
Tiara was 15 weeks pregnant. Her 20-month-old baby girl was also inside the car at the time of the shooting. The little girl was not hurt and was at tonight's vigil, a painful reminder of the ones left behind.
She just wanted to take care of her daughter, and the fact that somebody out there took my sister's life, it hurts. My family is hurt. My niece is hurt. My niece don't have her father or her mother. It's just crazy. Like, how somebody can just take innocent people's lives. It's just sad.
There have been no arrests. A man who was in the car with Tiara was also shot but is recovering.
And we learned tonight that the father of Tiara's 21-month-old baby also died from gun violence. Family members say he was shot and killed about 2 years ago, before the toddler was born.
Imagine your child's school being closed because the school didn't pay their utility bills.
Portsmouth Public Schools say they are in danger of that happening. They say they have the money, but the city is standing in their way. Robert Boyd has the story.
Portsmouth Public Schools says they may have to close their schools permanently if they don't get the funding necessary to pay their utility bills. But we spoke with one city council member who said she's not going to let that happen. Every year, the city of Portsmouth appropriates money to the school district based on categories, such as instruction and operations. But due to unexpectedly high utility bills after an unexpectedly harsh winter, they are $27,000 short on their operations budget.
We have the money, right, but we need the flexibility to move it around. But we have to have permission from the city council to do that. They have to approve that.
The school district says they expressed their dire circumstances to the city and the need to move money from one budget to another. But on Tuesday, council decided to table the vote.
We've got bills due, just like you and I and everybody else. You have utility bills, you've got to pay it. And we've got to meet these deadlines. And we've tried to reach out to the city council.
But City Councilwoman Lisa Lucas-Burke says she had no idea how serious the situation was.
We're not the bad guys. We want the school to be funded with everything that they need.
Lucas-Burke says it looks to her like simple miscommunication.
Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Bracy, and our city manager, Dr. Patton, needed to have sat down and had a conversation saying, hey, these bills have to be paid by May 30th.
He's reached out to the city manager. I've reached out to the mayor. We've done everything that we can possibly do.
Lisa Burke says this issue should be resolved at the next council meeting on May 22nd, if not sooner.
The majority of council, I believe, wants to give the school the money to do what they need to do and let them make their own decisions about how they allocate funding.
In Portsmouth, Robert Boyd, 13 News Now.
A scandal tonight involving SEAL Team 2 based in Hampton Roads at Little Creek. ABC News reports the commander and the senior enlisted officer of the team are being investigated for allegations of sexual assault and harassment. The SEAL team is currently deployed to Africa, but the two top leaders have been sent back to the U.S. as NCIS investigates. A suspected killer in Elizabeth City is in custody tonight. Police arrested Raymond Woodley and charged him with first-degree murder. He is accused of killing Trevon Demetrius Blunt last week. Woodley is in the Albemarle District Jail tonight without bond. Police say more arrests could be coming.
Suffolk firefighters spent several hours tonight at the scene of a large brush fire. They believe a lightning strike during last night's storm started the fire in the woods off Holland Road. A pilot flying overhead called the FAA this afternoon. Skydive Suffolk helped pinpoint the exact location. As you can see, it is in a heavily wooded area. At least 25 acres burn. State forestry workers are cutting lines around the fire so that it will eventually burn itself out. Mother's Day, of course, is Sunday. The usual gifts are flowers and candy.
But what about a gift that keeps on giving? The gift of family. Reporter Megan Shin has the story about one family that did just that.
Regina, David, we first introduced you to the former Virginia Beach residents Rebecca and Chris Henderson in 2015. She and her husband used in vitro fertilization. The Virginia Beach-based New Hope Center retrieved 13 embryos for Rebecca, and 2 were transferred into her uterus, resulting in twins. Then 2 more were donated to Dan and Kelly Gossman.
I'm good. How are you?
The Hendersons from Virginia and the Gossmans from Oregon behave like one family.
I think it's picking up right where we left off.
They're connected through the birth of their kids thanks to an embryo adoption program.
You are grafted into their family tree.
After years of thought, Rebecca and Chris Henderson gifted their remaining embryos to the Gossmans.
Let's give them a chance at life, and we hope for the best.
The Gossmans now have 2 kids. Listen to both families and they'll tell you an open adoption was their top choice, meaning both families agree to be involved in each other's and their kids' lives.
We wanted to have some say, some idea of who those embryos went to, what happened to them.
It's in the best interest of the kiddos to know where they came from, who do they look like.
New Hope Center's Dr. Robin Posegler says many couples struggle to decide what to do with remaining embryos used for in vitro.
This couple embodies everything about what embryo adoption is.
She says clinical freezers stay filled with unused embryos.
Hundreds of thousands if you look across the world.
To these families, the donated and adopted embryos mean siblings for their kids and expanding the family's love.
You are here because this family loved you and wanted you to have a chance at life.
Creating a closeness that living cross-country can't come between.
And Dr. Posegler was there says there were close to 3 couples sharing Rebecca's embryos. The remaining 5 went to a couple from Texas looking to have a baby. However, a baby didn't result from them. In the studio, Megan Shin, 13 News Now.
Tonight we know more about an apartment fire in the Bowers Hills section of Chesapeake. We told you last night that nearly a dozen people had to find a different place to stay. Tonight, fire officials say actually 19 people were forced from their homes, 9 adults and 10 children. We're told none of the 6 apartments safe to live in. We also learned the fire started with a child playing with fire.
In Chesterfield, a community is mourning after 4-month-old twins died after they were left in a hot SUV. A makeshift memorial for the babies is growing. The incident happened yesterday afternoon. Neighbors as well as family members are totally distraught. They say this was a mistake and a terrible tragedy.
They were beautiful, and abundance of joy, blessings. Ooh, sorry. They are great parents, and it's unfortunate what happened, but they're not bad as everyone's trying to make them seem or how it looks. They're really outstanding, they're brilliant, they're nice to everyone.
Police are still investigating, but there has been no word of any potential charges.
Nurse who works for the advocacy group Safe Kids Virginia says the temperature in a car can rise nearly 20 degrees in 10 minutes. She also wants parents to know that a child's temperature goes up 3 to 5 times faster than an adult's. She says it's easy for parents to forget they have kids in the car if there's a break from the usual routine. That's why parents need to set reminders for themselves.
For ladies, if you carry a purse or a backpack, put that in the back seat so that then you have to get out and get that item when you get to your destination and you see whether the child is back there or not. For gentlemen, it might be a lunchbox, it might be a briefcase, it might be a basketball.
Safety advocates say if you ever see children left inside a car, stop what you're doing and call 911. Also, wait with the children until police arrive to make sure they're okay. Another tragic story serves as another reminder for families. A 3-year-old boy drowned in a backyard pool in Suffolk. It happened yesterday in Whaleyville. Investigators say the boy wandered outside of the house. His family didn't know that he was gone until they found him in the pool. They did CPR until medics arrived and rushed him to the hospital. That boy did not survive. Police say right now it appears this is the result of a tragic accident.
A simple message to drivers from first responders: move over. The York-Poquoson Sheriff's Office says one of their deputies could have been hurt this morning at the scene of an accident. The sheriff says a suspected drunk driver sideswiped the deputy's car along Route 17 in front of York High School. You see the deputy's car was badly scraped up. The sheriff's office says the accident serves as a twofold reminder. 1, don't drink and drive, and move over if you see emergency vehicles on the road.
Had he been in front of the car, been at the side of the car, there's a very good chance that the deputy could have very well been seriously injured. Move over, pay attention, put down your cell phones, pay attention to the road, pay attention to what's in front of you.
The deputy was not in the vehicle when this happened and no one was injured, but Captain Lyon says if you see flashing lights, try to move over on the road so that first responders can do their jobs safely.
Dog stolen from a Navy couple's apartment in Virginia Beach has been found. We first brought you the story of Denver, the French bulldog, last night right here at 11. Pregnant sailor and her boyfriend say someone kicked in their door a few days after they moved in. They say someone then took their puppy. Nothing else was stolen, but the couple was devastated. Today, Chesapeake Animal Control announced Denver had turned up there and was reported as a stray. They may not figure out who broke into their apartment, but they say they're planning to move because of what happened.